The beauty of the shamanic way is this continually evolving. We evolve into this. It's not, let me go study it, but we begin to live in harmony with nature and recognizing that all of our relations, there's a consciousness in everything.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosie Daniel.
Hello, I'm Karen Mellers. You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. We could not let season 3 go by without bringing in my dear friend, Dr. Paula Petry, as our guest. So this bonus episode is the cherry on the top of an amazing season for Alive and Loving It. Paula is a transformational practitioner, speaker, and author who blends psychology, somatic awareness, and decades of healing experience into a deeply intuitive, presence-based approach and understanding of who we are as spiritual beings. She has a doctorate from the University of Miami and professional training in shamanic energy medicine and intention-based modalities. Paula helps people release long-held emotion and energetic imprints and helps them to reconnect with their innate clarity and vitality. She offers presentations, private sessions, workshops, and retreats in the US and internationally. And she's written 2 books, A Mother's Courage to Awaken and 24/7 Flow, Thrive Around the Clock. I had the great pleasure to meet Paula at Broughton Estate when we both lived there for a period of time in 2024, hit it off immediately, and now run Pathways to Self-Care retreats together. She is my dear, dear friend, and you are in for a treat. Snuggle in, grab a cuppa, and enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you for your time and your energy of pressing play on our podcast. It means so, so much to us. And because we love you so much, we've got an extra bonus episode for you in season 3. And there isn't any way that I would leave out this beautiful, amazing woman, Paula Petry, who is now one of my dearest friends. Paula, thank you for joining us from San Diego. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you, Karen and Rosie. Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh, Rosie, how great is it to have Paula with us?
Gorgeous. And I'm intrigued with your connection because I know you two met up at Broughton Hall in Yorkshire. Tell us about that spark. What happened when you met?
It was one of those magical moments. I was living there. I had months prior had given up my home and set out to Europe, celebrating a big birthday I had. And I ended up at Broughton at the Science and Consciousness Conference. I thought, oh my gosh, I would love to stay here. And I did. And I had set out before I left the US this intention to meet, business partners that really were a good match. And integrity became more and more important in terms of what really defined a good match for me. But there I was at Broughton, and I offered to do a workshop for them. And it was on shadow and self-discovery. And there was Karen amongst the 7. It was a small but intense workshop. And Karen, we did work, and then it came to go around the circle and share. And I did a process with each person as we went around the circle. And Karen was first. And what struck me immediately was her depth of perception of her inner life and courage, because shadow work takes just a lot of courage. And even though you don't have to say detail when you share, the sharing is important pieces, of the work. It helps other people mirror and find themselves, but we discover things as we share. And so it left me intrigued. And I was thankful also because Karen modeled the way for the rest of the group, right? It was like, oh, thank goodness she understood. She did. It's like one of those things of gratefulness as a leader of the group, right? And then afterwards, there was not immediate, like I hadn't thought about it, like, oh, I'm gonna, whatever. No, she was about to leave, as I remember, and then I was like, oh, I need her phone number. Like, is she here? Where is she? How do I follow up? And then it flowed. My intentions of, wanting business partners, women that were really kind of up to big, meaningful work. And also, it's important for me that we recognize that we're also on our own journey that's never ending. Like, we have never arrived. We're never going to arrive at this place where we're complete and full and accomplished and kind of resting in our well, maybe at the very end of life, I guess we land there, but it's evolving, no? So we're on that self-discovery, and I think the Buddhists remind us, right? We don't know what we don't know kind of theme with that. We start simple. We start with what we're always assuming we don't know everything.
It was clearly a remarkable meeting, because since that time you've now done 2 big retreats and have this new emerging opening for people of the healing waves. And we're going to dive into that. But, how amazing that you made that connection and lit that fire and have provided such profound healing opportunities for so many other people at this point. And I was moved reading, Paula, that you say this work, it didn't begin as a profession or as a study or from academia. It came as a result of loss in your life and the following of a calling. So would you like to explain to us about that?
Thank you, Rosie. It evolved from a question, a deep desire to understand where it is that we go when we die. Yeah.
The biggest question of all.
When you're my age, you're like, okay, that's the time people really start asking that question. But however, for those of us who've lost a child, we start that question quite immediately. Yeah. So I was, and I didn't really even know I was in a traditional church. I loved the church. That really helped me bridge from, my daughter was part of it, my son. So it was a significant help. from the United Methodist Church where I was living. Beautiful support. And I was part of an adult Sunday school. But people didn't have the answer to that question because traditional religion doesn't answer it. It says through faith alone. I had kind of migrated from the church a bit, and I was in this mastermind group. And this woman announced that she had met a medium when she went back. She had a PhD in transpersonal psychology, and she met a medium, and she was bringing him from Georgia to Miami. And then she announced the date, and it was July 5th. And that July 5th, 2007 was the anniversary, the 11th anniversary, very magical number, of my daughter's death. And so she said, does anybody want to book in an appointment? I'm kind of his scheduler. And I was like, oh, this was it. So, whoosh, I can remember it so clearly. Yeah. And I felt it. It was very real. Yeah. I was in this little cottage, and he opened the door and he was like 6'4", and he looked a bit like the magician, he looked a little bit like you should, as a medium. But he was also a grief and family counselor, therapist. And then I said, no, I'm here. I've resigned my position from the university. I'm writing my dissertation. I don't have any questions about any of that. I came to commune with my daughter. And he goes, oh, I know, dear. Yeah, she's waiting for you.
She's waiting for you. And he was able to make this bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you described having been in the dark womb of the unknown before.
Yes.
I mean, what a beautiful way to sum up that that place of not knowing, that place of complete loss and being cast adrift, when you had all that structure around you, but it looks like you had come out of structure into that place of deep unknowing. But here was somebody able to provide that bridge between the worlds. And you said, that encounter felt profoundly real to you.
It did. Yeah. And he was in South Florida for a while longer. I had other sessions with him. We're now, of course, how many years later, we continue to be good friends. He became a mentor to me in many ways. And I felt I left academia, but I left academia at the medical school and in disability and in the Department of Pediatrics. And I kept saying, I kept feeling, this is really helpful. Like knowing or sensing, becoming aware of the real possibility that life continues as a grieving mother, that was very helpful. And I had, witnessed many things that go on in medicine that are not helpful. And so it was, and then being service-minded and being in that void. I continued to write my dissertation, worked on the Obama campaign and did all kinds of things, but that was in my heart. And I began to take classes. And so this is helping other mothers, primarily. We are the seekers in that is very valuable.
And is it okay to ask you what you learned from your daughter, or what, how your reality changed at that time?
Poof. Well, Alex, what big life change for me was that Alex had died at home, so it prevents unexpectedly. So when a child dies, you are there to protect your children, right? So whether she died at home or any other circumstance, I now understand that as a mother and father, you feel that you failed your duty and you have to resolve that. So, when she said, I asked, and she said, Mom, no, I'm like, it's fated. It's the time is stamped. You did everything. I love you very much. It was my time. It was my time to go.
Yes. Gosh, and that's really chiming. My biggest spiritual teacher in my life has been Ram Dass. And he said absolutely clearly to us, however strange it looks, however unreasonable or tragic or, unforeseen, that the timing of our dying is completely perfect in terms of our soul contract and our, the learning, the life learning that each one of us has. And I find that very comforting when I'm working with people, because of course it's the same as a doctor, as a mother or a father. You feel I'm responsible, and I've got to, and of course you do your very, 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 very best, but you also have to have that recognition of each soul's destiny and the impact of that transition on the people around, the sacred contracts, the relationship and what comes through it. And I know that you have done remarkable work for hundreds of other people facing loss. That's true, isn't it, Paula?
Yeah, absolutely. People, I took, started studying the Akashic records, and my path just opened, right? And being in that void, in that place of darkness, of the unknown, finishing my PhD, but I knew I wanted to leave Miami, and I thought I would stay in academia, but it became an unknown. So when we are in those dark places, we feel it's a dark place or a scary place because it's unknown. It is where new seeds can plant themselves. Say when we're going high speed and we have a plan and we think we're going to get there, although that, the soul may have another plan altogether, right? But we're on the track, it's kind of hard to get us into that new direction, right? But I was ready, and I was always service minded. So I began Akashic record readings and just asked anybody, if they wanted a reading. And I did a lot, and I still do. I've never kind of promoted myself as a medium. What happens is that people are drawn to me and I to that person because of the people on the other side moving they're moving us around. I remember this time where I was I lived in Miami, and Brickell Avenue is the business district. And I went into this Peruvian restaurant I'd studied. It was after all my shamanic work and everything. I went in this Peruvian, and this woman says, no, oh, shamanism. No, I would lovely to bring you in here and we'll do something shamanic and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking around. It's a business district. It was Peruvian restaurant, but the context wasn't. But, I've been over eager, you could say, right? Oh, I'll help. Well, there's going to be no way that anything deep was going to happen at a restaurant. And, so anyhow, she came to see me, and I said, no, well, let me offer you a session so you kind of get a sense of what I do. Yeah. And then she starts talking about, she managed this restaurant. She starts talking about her grandmother. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, she's here. And then very only time in this context, she was sitting in this chair, I had the lights low, and I saw Jesus Christ standing behind her. And I said, was she religious? Was your grandmother religious? Right? And she said, yes, right. Being Catholic, Miami, and being Catholic and Hispanic. And I said, this is her message to you. And so I go at of course, there was no shamanism at the Peruvian restaurant. So when I follow up, she had gotten this big job in a whole different restaurant, and off she went. Right? So it's mission accomplished. Yeah, we don't know. We think we're there for this. But what this teaching has brought me is that it's kind of never about that. It's about something more profound, more meaningful, more in line with intent, what is one intention and one's path.
Yeah. I mean, you're making me think of a time when I was in Great. It was actually also to do with the loss of a daughter, but not through dying, through an estrangement, through some upset that happened. And I was in such a lot of pain that I connected with a medium. And amongst many other things she told me, she said, the anger your daughter is expressing is the anger of her father towards his mother, and the grief she's expressing is your grief about the loss of your mother in your childhood. So it just, and I've had that glimpse through constellation work at seeing how these dynamics, are so available to people working in constellation therapy, where the group is actually becomes, without even having ever met each other or heard each other's stories, becomes accessible, the what's going on in these unseen dynamics. But you talked about entering shamanic practice. You were a psychologist with a PhD and very academic, so here you are crossing these big divides between left brain, right brain, soul, body. Tell us about shamanism and what that means to you, and about shamanic practice.
Thank you. Yeah, the path just unfolded. It was like following, you say follow the breadcrumbs, but it was like loaves of bread. I couldn't have missed it, right? But it happens in so many interesting ways. Because just to say, I was like out to lunch with also a PhD. We're working on a project for the dean of the School of Education at University of Miami. And I said, do you know anything about psyche? Because it's always under the breath, right? Now I don't so much. Things have changed dramatically even these last 10 years, but it's like low breath at dinner. She goes, so it turns out that her mother-in-law makes all the jewelry for Carolyn Mace. Like she knew everything. She knew everything that I didn't know, right? So off we went. And then she said, who you need to meet is this person. So this person had her in Miami, PhD, psychologist, but studied with Alberto Villoldo in 1995 when he first began in the work of the Four Winds Society. Very big, also big in Europe, but United States is its primary. And I love his model. So it was a year and a half of training, and I traveled to Peru and took a lot of classes. I went back to my early days of my BA degree in anthropology and living in Mexico for a year, studying archaeology, being on an archaeology dig for a year. So I felt finally I was back to a love that I had in my young, but then I chose marriage and not, at the time I left all that and became married. And so what it means is the shamans, it's the indigenous way of being, the importance of Aini, of being in harmony with self, but also and with the earth. So the beauty of the shamanic way is this continually evolving. We evolve into this. It's not, let me go study it, but we begin to live this in harmony with nature and recognizing that all of relations, there's a consciousness in everything, this interconnected web, this quantum field that now we understand more and more scientifically is a interconnected web in which we're all connected. It's how I met Karen, and then how as I'm describing this web of connections is for that purpose. How I fall upon, this woman who's seeking me, her grandmother is like, okay, go find this woman. You need some insight about how life really works, right? Because we're all connected. The beauty of that, the understanding. And then the connection with the animal world and Mother Earth, because Gaia is, is the mother that none of us had. Whether we had the amazing mother, right? But then you find yourself, particularly for women, right, in this mirror of beauty of the mother of Gaia. And it's like, then in recognizing that of the mirror, right? So all of the shamanic training leads you into a life view perspective that is, I would say, is truth. That's how I experience it. Like I know I don't believe there's a God. I know, like, there's a God. I know there's this intelligence of wonder and awe and guidance and support that is there for us and greater than anything we could imagine.
Yes, indeed. And Karen, you've had the joy of working now at depth with Paula in 2 retreats. Tell us how that's been and how you've witnessed and shared and supported Paula's work.
Well, it was the best date I ever went on when she handed me her phone number. And just listening to you speak now, both of you, I'm connecting with my intention at that time. When I started to live nomadically, so we had something in common when we met, that we both left our homes. And my intention, having lost my mum 10 years ago now, was I knew that there was a void in my life for older women, and this, I will say, that a different way of living, a truer way of living, because I have some influence in my life that is a lot around fear. And what I was calling for was, as I moved into menopause, was women to come into my life that I could learn from, who were my new teachers. And so with that intention, I went to every single workshop that Broughton was putting on when I lived there for 5 weeks. And it was the first one I went to when I met Paula. So at that point, and what Paula's helped me do is see the meaning and magic in life, connecting these signs. And the funniest one was, we got talking about retreats, and I've organized about 20, and Paula wanted to do one, and it seemed like a good match. And as we both left Broughton, Paula phoned me and said, "I'm not going to do it, Karen. It's not the right time. We're not going to do that retreat." I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And I'd come to Scotland, where I am now. And all the way around Scotland, I kept seeing Manse Road, Manse House, Manse this. And what I'd learned to do from Paula was just clock those signs. And about 6 weeks later, Paula phoned me again and said, "I've changed my mind. We're going to do that retreat, but we're going to hold it in this place called the Manse." I went, "Yeah, of course we are." And I saw it coming. So every time I spend time with Paula and just listening to the two of you now, I feel like I'm in the Earth Lodge. Does that term make sense? Where, I'm with the elders and I'm listening to every word of who I can become and how I get there, and to not live without this magic and meaning. And my tears are coming now, because the other thing I wanted to say is that both of you, every time I see you start a workshop or a retreat or any sort of you start with tears. Seriously, you both do. And that is, at first it freaked me out a bit. I was like, "Oh God, is something wrong?" But now I know it's because you are speaking from a depth, and I can feel it as I'm talking now. So I hope this comes across the airwaves. You speak from a depth of truth and knowing and beauty. And it's just amazing to be in work with Paula when I experience that, because it's experiential learning for me. I am learning by experiencing from the wisdom of both of you. I've got the best job in the world here, me, just in the whole space here. Really have.
As the prophet says, that the sorrow digs the well, into which the joy can flow. And I had a lot of loss in early life as well, Paula, and I can feel that soul resonance, and we do. And it's why when we've had such profound loss, that we can be useful to other people, because they know, they can feel in our field that we know what that heartbreak feels like. We know what that, being stripped to the core actually feels like. And, so people say to me when they come to trainers, coaches and mentors, oh, does it matter that I've had cancer? Absolutely not. It's a complete blessing for the people you work with, because they know, how they're feeling and what they're going through. And, when we are the ones that have those very tricky rides, whether or not we accept that that's a sacred contract and that we've actually elected for, it's almost like there's no choice to go on this path of inquiry and journeying and understanding and deepening and exploration, because if life throws you such a difficult hand, you have to start asking, what what is this all about? What is life? What is death? Who am I? Where do I go? Where is my beloved child or partner or father or mother? And so I just want to ask a bit more about that sort of seeing through the veil of life and death, and how much that informs your shamanic process that you are running within your therapy, your groups, your retreats.
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Rosie, and that piece on your own life experience, which I didn't know. It is beautiful. It does dig the well, and it digs deep. And this perspective that you gain from it is one that poses those questions you just posed, right? Really traditional. I was 5 years on the couch 4 days a week. And I was with a psychologist many years prior and after. And that perspective shapes somewhat, but it's not a view from which you see the world there, right? I did a lot of healing work, but it's just to point out what comes with the shamanic work and seeing into the invisible is communicating those that have transitioned to loved ones on this side, and seeing, even in a healing session, kind of what is. See, we don't, and recognizing that what is in reality in the energy field is different than how the story that we spin about ourselves, because that comes from wounding, right? So we have wounds, we spin a story about it, and we're living that story. So then the shaman comes, or the seer, right? And we're seeing the real story, like, and we're also seeing those imprints. So being able to see gives you and the training I received, Four Winds is genius on giving you a map that's really meaningful for the work individually. And that we go into the lower world, into the four chambers of the heart, and down through there's a central axis of upper world and lower world. And you go into the lower world, Jungian, unconscious world of the individual, and the collective lives there. And then what is it that you see? And so I can see the wound. I ask for permission. I go in and I see the original wounding, all addressing the issue of what the person came to in the first place. Is all connected. Yeah. They bring a story. I track the story. We help to identify in that story, what's the imprint? What's the energy that we want to extract? Because I know 5 years on the couch, 4 days a week, gave me the ability to track the mind. And knowing what I might potentially be tracking for, is all my training in Jungian dream analysis, is that this archetypal energy have imprints. And so it's listening for those stories that carry an imprint. So then when I go into the invisible to help reshape the story, like, so just very recently, it was lower world and the parents. So in the wound chamber, I see a movie. So I saw a movie of both of her parents sending this really strong, heavy energy towards her. Like it was just like, and she was in her hideout. She had a favorite place she would go hide out. And she was in her hideout in this. And I said, okay, and she was 10. But this hideout and this energy was still running her life at age 60, right? So then, because time in the quantum field, I went like studied the science of it, we could look at that piece. Time is not linear. Time moves around. And so we just move around with time, and we do it all in service of the client. Like everything is in service of other. And that is really, again, 5 years on the couch with someone who's a very immaculate, oh my gosh, of boundaries and service to other. She was a mentor to me in that regard. And so it's like in service to the client is like, okay, what could be helpful in time? So I said, you're 10 and you're in your hideout, but you have all this energy. I want you to stand up and move that energy and send it back to your parents. This is the most empowering work. That's why I love shamanic work. It's so empowering because at 10, we can't do that at 10, right? Every night it was this blasting of, it was ongoing and it was inner field. And so what if we can go back into that moment in time, because that's the invisible. We're in this invisible web where time doesn't exist and it's non-local. So I'm with her. We're both there. And then in fact, this person was saying, I said, no, and your brother, no, I already saw you. I knew what you were going to say. I go, no, and there's this. And I already knew you were going to say that because now we're both in the web. We're both seeing what spirit wants to show us as metaphors of the real thing that happened and is happening. So she goes, no, they're going to agree, Baba. I said, no. There's no, your brothers are never going to agree with you. This is all a sham. Everything they're doing and orchestrating this apparent agreement, you're going to need to go legal. This is all a sham. Just know that it's a sham. And they may not even know it's a sham. They may think that it's real, that they're trying to negotiate this contract. Anyhow, but going back to the 10-year-old vision and standing up and sending that energy back, then you're removing. And then we came with this contract. It said, what was the contract you had with yourself, as a result of this energy and with your growing up? And she had no control over her own life. So the new contract, the new energy, is that I am in control of my own destiny. I co-create with spirit my own destiny. And the soul pieces that went underground of her feminine nature, because she had to be, rough and tough and defensive mode all the time, came floating back in. That's a soul retrieval. From trauma, parts of ourselves leaves. And then a beautiful treasure and an animal. And so that's the work. And it is, in my PhD work, my dissertation in 2008, I defended was on family empowerment. And I created the items for an instrument to measure the degree to which states were empowering families. It was all early intervention, disability related. Carl Dunst, the genius in family empowerment and disability, said the number one question to ask parents on that questionnaire, now the question I helped develop, all states are required to continue to administer that to all parents receiving this federally shaped program, is the degree to which you feel in control of your life. Is what we're doing at the state level, was the question, helping you feel more control of your life, a pre-post. So that's the power of shamanic work, of energy work, is we increase, and now I measure it, I do pre and post, the degree to which women feel more in control of our own lives. And we do it by understanding the truth of what is. It settles in the body like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's what people come to the retreats, right, Karen? They come, and the healing waves, the same thing. Print the science, we do this and do that. And then they're able to sit with it and apply it. And the body says this makes sense.
So you have run 2 retreats together already, one in Yorkshire, in Broughton, and one in that beautiful place in Italy that you sent through the photos last year. And it's going to happen again. Is it in the fall, in September?
It is. It's happening 24th of September.
So Karen, give us a sense of the shape of that and the length and who should come and, you know, what you saw happening last time.
Well, first of all, it is the most beautiful place just north of Rome, northwest of Rome. And Paula, I think you should share some of the story of how you met Olivia. And all of these healing places, I think there is an energy source. And at Tenuta, it is Olivia. She used to work for Fendi. She is more Italian than I could ever imagine. and feminine, fierce Italian energy. And she is guardian of this land with used to be racing horses, these beautiful horses, 9, I think there are. And there is art and beauty and food provided by Olivia and her team, which is always the base of a fantastic retreat. But Paula and Olivia met, there was this connection, and Paula went to live in Tenuta for quite some time to get to know the land, to get to know the horses. And that's so, so important for me when choosing a venue. So when we did it at Broughton, it was a no-brainer because we'd both lived there for a period of time and we really felt part of that land's history. And that's sort of what's happening at Tenuta, which is why we're going back this year. There's an undercurrent thread of connection with the land and connection with Olivia. And, it's work in progress. But the retreat pathways to self-care, what we saw in the November at Broughton and what we saw at Italy is a connection between women who have been starved of that connection. And personally with themselves, finding out who they are through the work that Paula does with them and setting their intention and coming back into control with their life. But the work that I do in holding the circles, it's about connection with each other and having a strong relationship with another woman that you can trust 100%, that is love that we have been starved of. It's not intimate love with a partner. It's this sisterhood that helps us to be safe within ourselves so that then we can start to become ourselves in that circle and then we can go out into the world. I mean, I was talking to one of the ladies from November, Paula, yesterday, and the changes in her life since she came to Broughton November 24. She came in this place of, I don't know who I am. It's uncomfortable in the job that I'm doing. I know I'm not in the right place. She's gone through this period of doing nothing and being in the dark. She's got a new business startup. She's training to be an end of life doula. So as well as like working in the commercial world, she's got a spiritual purpose as well. And she's speaking from such a different place. I'm like, so if you are in the throes of the change, which is, I feel uncomfortable in my life now, but I don't know where I'm going. There's so much unknown and I need support. That is perfect time to come to Italy for 5 days in the sunshine. Absolutely.
So we'll put that in the show notes and onto the website. But this other new offering, Paula, of the healing waves, tell us about the healing waves.
This is for women who want to open up their ability to see into the invisible, to connect deeper with themselves and to connect with the invisible. That was my primary, that's what I wanted to primarily. But I thought, if we wrap around this, it will be more understandable. because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know the benefit of having this deep connection if you've never had it, right? So it's hard for people to connect with that. So I wrapped it in manifesting intention. It's all working with the invisible field. So once we are in flow with ourselves and with our life and hold that intention with faith and have a clear intention. That's how I set off for Europe for 2.5 years with clear intentions. I'm now part of a movie that's creating living out this intention that I set for bringing this to you. So it's the power of intention and to become the healer within. Everyone needs it. Knowing that we have that power, follow the way, the kingdom lives within you. And so it's a bit of science. It's the mere imaging of others, healing each other within a context that is defined. And we've seen someone who was in pain, significant pain meds, everything, since November, is pain-free as of this week. She's had 5-6 days of no pain. Yeah. And people manifesting their, like, I want this or that. They have too many podcasts that they're on and too many. They just laugh. I can't even give you guys an update. And the two people just start laughing. I can't even give you an update. Like, so much is happening in my life. I can't keep up. I can't keep up. And learning how to set intentions. Yes.
And the format for that. So this is virtual. It's happening in the Zoom space, the Healing Waves. And,
yes.
And how many sessions are there?
6.
So there's 6 sessions. What kind of interval?
Every other week. And there's only 12 people in the group. Okay. So it's limited, a tribe of 12. So
that sounds like 12 weeks for 12 people. And I believe you have another group starting in mid-April?
April 17th.
Yeah. Okay. So again, we'll make those contacts available, but what a beautiful healing crucible you've created there for women to have that support, to receive healing, to develop as healers, to develop their sight, and to know themselves as the powerful healing women that they are, to know, I think I'm getting such a strong sense of women growing to their full size and their full capacity and reawakening senses that are there all the time, but you're giving permission and facilitating women to start flexing these muscles or these eyes or these ears or, to start knowing what they know.
It's a remembering. Well said. Yes. A remembering, right? This is within us, and with modern society, we have forgotten.
Yes. Well, I'm so 100%, 300, 100% with you, because, it is very evident that we know far more than we think we know, that the education system dumbs us down. It doesn't open us up, but that actually the field at this time is very open. And, I think that we were talking, Karen and I, this morning about our energy, that as our energy rises, that our receptivity to what's in the field, the information, the teaching, the wisdom, and the love, is getting stronger. And I just thank you so much for creating this extraordinary opportunity for women to come into these very safe, beautiful spaces, to both of you, whether it's is it 5 days in the retreat in Italy? Yeah.
Yes.
Or to dip into the pool of the healing waves. So thank you, dear Paula and Karen, for the work you're doing together. I just wish you a million blessings for that work, and just bring it on. We really need it.
Thank you, Paula, for your clarity. As again, the words have just landed. I've learned so much again just listening to you today. And I want to thank you both for the work, the explorative work you have done in bringing science and mystery together, and the courage you both have to do that, And naming it in the same space is just so helping the rest of us have an understanding. And it's like giving us permission to feel and to validate our own feelings of when we touch into the mystery. So I meant it when I said I'm in the Earth Lodge here, ladies. I am down on the floor in the ground, like listening to every single word. And thank goodness for this podcast, as we've been able to spread that message. We're opening up the doors of the Earth Lodge, and the younger women are coming in. I can feel that now. Really feel the intention as well, that as we rise in our courage and we start finding our voice, we are opening the doors for the younger women to come in and learn quicker, remember quicker than we did. So thank you so much for that.
And Paula, the way that you've woven the academic at all stages, that you've grounded everything in beautiful writing, in fantastic science, in exploring what's going on at the edge of quantum physics and transpersonal psychology, spirituality, deep respect for the discipline, and the brilliant brain that you have to weave all this together.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about my work and of course, to having met Karen and really to acknowledge the both of you with this podcast and how it is bringing this wisdom that comes from many different traditions and perspectives, right? But it's kind of the same pole. And you've just beautifully kind of creating all the branches, of the tree, and letting people find their place and where they land. Like mine was in shamanism, but somebody else lands someplace else. And so just that trusting that women now are coming back to, of like, what's right for me, right? What is the hummingbird, take me to my nectar, the sweetest nectar that's of mine. And we can do that when we have opportunity to hear such broad range of approaches, and the core of the tree is the same, right? And all love, it's all love driven. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bless your beautiful heart.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosie. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosie Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosie and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.